Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Car Addiction. Today the topic of my video is to prove you why standard cold air intake is just a waste of money. Now, I am going to explain how the cold air intake system works and what you need to do to get a true cold air intake system. And on top of that, I will explain the three conventional air intake system will come with the factory, and I will explain why they are actually better from the cold air intake system. So first off, I'm going to start with the most common and the oldest form of intake system, which is basically what I have in my Nissan Xterra. So what you got in here is an air box, and that's pretty much it. Now the interesting thing is this is the pipe that the airbox sucks the air from. And where does that go? That is actually... So cold air goes through there, climbs all the way. There's a ducting behind the bumper and reaches to this part. And then from here, it goes to the box and goes to the engine. That is cold air intake. All right. Now, I have seen a lot of people. Check this picture. Let's look at this cold air system in this Nissan Xterra. All that cone filter is doing is sucking up hot ambient air from the engine bay, not sucking any cold air. Whereas the factory system redirects the air from the front, the airflow from the front, and takes it to the box. And that gives you the most amount of cold air you're going to get. Now the question is, well, I don't a restrictive airflow. Well, you know what? That's pretty much as less restrictive airflow you can get without making major modifications to the face of your vehicle or the engine bay. Because what you need to do is look at a picture of the Dodge Hellcat. Do you see the front of the vehicle? It's supposed to have two lights. It's actually missing a headlight because that is a true cold air intake. That's how you're supposed to do it. But you putting a cone air filter open in your engine bay does not make it a cold air intake. And check this picture with the Honda Civic, where they literally have the cold air intake on top of the manifold of the engine. Hot air rises from the manifold, sucks in through cone filter and goes to the engine. What do you think? You're getting a cold air intake? No. Now, what I did and what you can actually do to have a little less restrictive airflow is use something like a Canon filter that I used. If you can see, it's one of the better filter in the market. It's a cloth, and you need to oil it. All it does, it filters the air with the least amount of restriction. So again, these are expensive. It's almost $80 Canadian dollar for that, and practically that's the most mod you can do and get the best result. I have heard a lot of horror stories where racer boys, they install the cold air intake or something like that, or whatever they think the cold air intake is, and it's actually hampering their performance. Mighty Car Mods, which is a very renowned YouTube channel out of Australia, did a test on their dyno with the cold air intake system and just the factory airbox. The factory airbox actually made more horsepower, and it was less restricting than the cold air intake, because the engineers in the factory, they take years and years to develop this project. If they had an opportunity to just make it a little simpler, they would have done it. Now, another system that I wanted to show you, this is the newer generation. It's on a 2014 Kia Optima, and what I noticed is this is as cold air intake as it gets. This is where the air intake happens. It's right under the hood. It's pulling in fresh air, and see the ducting. It just follows to the airbox and then to your engine. I have seen people will actually take the airbox off, leave this ducting, and leave a cone filter here. Like, dude, are you stupid? Because that cold air filter is doing exactly what it's not supposed to do, sucking in all the hot air from the engine bay, whereas the factory system was sucking in all the cold, clean air. All right? And again, on this car, guess what I used? I don't know if I can show you. Well, I used just a standard K&N drop-in high flow filter. You know what? It's not like I received 1,000 hours for just dropping in a K&N airflow, but I do feel a faster throttle response. No, I didn't gain any horsepower. I just feel a little faster throttle response because that's all it can do. Now, I am going to show you a forced induction system with the factory airbox. And I'll prove you, even that has a cold air intake from the factory. And the cone filter you're going to use is a piece of whatever. Now, this is an SLK 230 compressor. Compressor is a German word for supercharger, so it's supercharged. You're going to see the air ducting here, which came from the condenser up front, and that's where the air box is with the air filter inside. Guess where it's sucking it from? Look at it. Right here. Right here. I'll let the camera zoom. That's the air intake. And guess where is that? Right at the face of the vehicle. Sucking in cold air from here, going to the box, going through the filter, and then rerouting it through. Because it has a compressor, it has to go through a different way than just a standard system will go. Now, as I was saying, the Dodge Hellcat has a true cold air intake. I also have a Nissan 300ZX, which has a true cold air intake. And now I will explain what you need to do to make sure that your cold air intake is actually worth it. What I have over here, I don't know if I can show you without actually removing this piece, which I am not interested to do right now. Oh, you know what? Maybe I can scoop in from here. I don't know if you guys can see. So, what I have here is two intakes with the two separate cone filters. Now, these intakes go to the left bank or the right bank of the engine. Each bank will have their own intakes. Having said that, I also have two separate MAF sensors to calculate the airflow between the two separate sides. Now, the MAF sensor is also connected to a saline translator, which also tells the ECU that, okay, hold on, you don't have one, but you have two air intakes, and it measures the air between the two and feeds to the ECU. Now, the ECU that I have, it's not a standard factory ECU, because the factory ECU, of course, it's not programmable, and it wouldn't know what this program is trying to tell him. I have a standalone Z1 Motorsport ECU, and that ECU has the right chip, right programming to understand what this cone filter is all about, what this the two MAF sensor is trying to tell it, and what kind of airflow it's getting. You need all of that just to make sure your engine or your computer understands the concept of a cone air filter. Now the computer understands that, okay, hold on, I can suck a lot more air than what I could previously. So it's going to suck in a lot more. Now, just because it sucked in a lot more doesn't mean it can use it. It also needs the appropriate injectors so that it can throw in the right amount of fuel so that it doesn't lean out. So I had to go with an upgraded injector. Since I went with an upgraded injector, I also needed to retune the ECU according to that. Now, after that problem, I realized, hold on, my factory exhaust is useless because now it's sucking in so much air. Now it needs to spit it out. And when the factory system is not good. Now I have a full turbovac exhaust system. Only then it makes sense. It makes a beautiful 500 horse to the wheel from a standard 300 horse to the wheel. Now, if that's not what you're doing, your stupid $250 cold air intake is just an absolute waste of money, because it's not only doing nothing, it's actually hampering the performance of the vehicle. you're going to see a lot of Honda Civics with their cone air filter and fart cans farting along, and it makes such a big noise. But when it comes to the actual performance of the engine, they're slow as shit. Excuse my language. That's how it is. And if you are one of those guys, dude, do it right. If you want to spend the money, it's going to cost you a little bit more. Do it right. And again, if you're new to my channel, please like and subscribe to my video. If you think I said something wrong, leave it in the comment section. I'm still learning. I'm not an expert on this matter by any means. People who are new to this channel, what I usually do, I make tiny car fixing videos. I have a couple of interesting cars. I also make car buying videos. So if you're looking for any specific driver's car and you would like to know which model to buy and how to look when you what to look for when you actually go to buy the vehicle, I'll leave it in the comment section. Let's see if I can make a video for you. Would be nice, and it will be my pleasure. Once again, please like and subscribe, and looking forward to your next video.